So can you tell me who you are and what your connection is with North Kilworth?
Yes, I'm Sharon March. I'm a lay pioneer minister in the Church of England. So that really means I don't do any of the sacraments, I can't marry people or baptise them, and I don't do communion. But my job is to be out in the community working among people. And I live here in North Kilworth.
So I imagine that life has changed quite a lot for you during lockdown. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, it's changed majorly. I think the first thing I'd like to say is I'm really glad that we didn't know almost a year ago now that we were still going to be in lockdown 3, as it is now, at the moment. I think God's very good. He doesn't tell us the future often, and that's really helpful. I think one of the biggest things for me is that I used to be out and about quite a lot and meeting quite a lot of community groups and spending time with groups of people, and that's really changed. So obviously the whole way of working has had to adapt and change.
So part of your work is working with local schools. Can you tell me how that has changed during lockdown?
Yeah, we have 4 church schools in the area that I work in, and that was seeing lots and lots of people, usually at least once a week in one school or another. So not being able to go in has been quite difficult. I used to be able to do that, and I was in, then I couldn't do it, then I was able to go back in. So that's made me learn quite a lot. Just like schools change for everybody, it's made me learn to work in different ways, and I've had to come to grips with a lot more technology, which I'm thankful for really, because learning is always good, but we've got opportunities now to interact electronically that we maybe didn't have or didn't use so much before.
So what does a typical school assembly look like under Zoom conditions?
Oh gosh, collective worship is really interesting now. And I think one of the things I really miss is feedback. You know, when you're able to ask a question, and also you get that sense of the presence of God through the Holy Spirit being there. That's kind of more difficult to do on Zoom, I think. That's really difficult, and I know it feels a bit like a performance to me. I'm just a talking head, so it's finding ways for that to be more interactive.
When you have been able to go into schools, has that been the same as normal school assemblies?
I think children are really resilient. I think the groups of children that I've managed to see have been really welcoming, and it's like you're a long lost friend, because I don't think they see that many people. So we've been able to spend time with God and with each other in the way that we would, obviously at a safe distance. I guess that's the difference before. And I think staff are really great. I think it's been such a difficult time for lots of people that we wouldn't have imagined, and it's really been trying to find ways to support them, so to pray for them and to offer help whenever I can.
So do you do assemblies with the whole school when you go in?
Usually it's just in a bubble, so having to bubble with one particular group or another, and maybe be live streamed to other classrooms. That's what's happened most of the time.
So you work with the Church of England. How have the big high points in the church calendar changed through lockdown?
Gosh, we weren't able to get together last Easter even. And so when it came to later on in the calendar, things like Christmas, I think I already realised that there was no way we were going to be able to get together and do big carol services. The church had thought a lot about that and decided it wasn't safe. And so although I really missed those occasions when we could all get together, and really missed singing, surprisingly, we had to think about what we could do that would make those celebrations accessible to everybody. So I started to think and reflect about that, and came up with this idea that wasn't really mine. It was adapted from about an Advent trail, and lots of people in a couple of our villages, North Kilworth and South Kilworth, really took that on board, and they decorated a window for a specific date, and people were able to go round in their own bubble at a safe distance and just have a sense of Christmas joy. The theme was comfort and joy, and people were really great at decorating their windows for that. And then we did an event in the churchyard with the church building being open, where people could go in and spend some time at different stations to think about getting ready for Christmas and thinking about people they'd lost in a kind of blue Christmas corner, and then work towards the stable and the manger, where they were able to remember, actually we can still celebrate because Jesus did come, and this is a time when we remembered that. And going on from that, at this time when there's not really much happening, the churchyard is still a great public space, so we developed a QR code, a kind of mini pilgrimage that adapted something we'd used before in the churchyard so that people could access that with technology, and that's a kind of family-friendly activity too.
So if there's one thing that you've learned during this time of lockdown, what would that be?
I think the biggest thing for me is we often go to places that we love and spend time with different people. Here, I think I've had to learn to love the place I'm in. And for me, that's the biggest thing. I think even in our own street, we'd been here for a while and not everybody knew each other's name. So that has really changed. I think we've started to develop some sort of community, and I'm sure other people would say that too. You know, we started with clap for carers, and then we stayed outside because the weather got good, and then we kind of helped and supported each other. We did some singing outside on Christmas morning. So there are all sorts of things. You know, we're planning a tidy up of the lane in spring. So I think really that would be my thing. It's learn to love the place and the people that you're with if you can't be with the people and in the places that you love.
If you had to think of 3 words that summed up lockdown for you, what would they be?
3 words, okay. I think learning. I've had to learn to do lots of new things, and that's quite painful sometimes, particularly for me when it involves technology. Patience, I think, would be another one. I thought I was quite a patient person, but again, I think I'm glad I didn't know a long time ago that we would still be here. And probably adapting. So not just learning new things, but having to adapt, particularly in the way that we do church or the way that we communicate with each other. So yeah.